instead of me writing up a citation and kind of sterilizing it, I've left this in their own words with Kenneth and also the sergeant that recognized the firefighters and the officer for life-saving. And now, to Officer French's surprise, I'm going to use his notes to talk about what exactly happened that night, because I think it's important that everybody hears what exactly happened that night, and then we're going to go over kind of what could have happened. At approximately 22:12 hours, that's 10:12 at night, on 2/27/21, Officer French was on a mobile patrol in a marked police vehicle, and he was in the 6000 block of Miller Store Road in the city of Norfolk. This is near Signature Flight Support, going around the curve. He observed a white 1998 Acura four-door on the side of the road with the hazard lights on. He also saw a subject, a slim-built black male, standing in the middle of the roadway. He was staggering and unsteady on his feet. Officer French engaged his emergency lights and reported to the airport police control that he had a possible disabled vehicle in front of Signature Flight Services. He parked his vehicle behind the white Acura, got out, he approached the subject, asked him if he needed any mechanical or medical assistance, to which the subject replied no. He asked the subject to step over into the grass on the side of the road to avoid being struck by vehicular traffic coming down Miller Store Road. As they walked over, the subject got into the driver's seat of the Acura. As Officer French approached the driver's door, he observed a black semi-automatic handgun in the victim's hand, or the suspect's hand. He picked the gun up and he got into the car. The subject was attempting to wedge the firearm between the seats and the center console. He gave the subject, not saying a name, he gave the subject verbal commands to let go of the firearm and to show his hands. The subject did not comply. At this point, Officer French was forced to draw his weapon and retreat backwards from the vehicle to take a position of cover. He called for assistance, and Officer Delavecchio responded on scene. Upon his arrival, Officer Delavecchio took up another position of cover, and they began to give verbal commands to the subject inside of the vehicle to put his hands out of the window. They approached the vehicle cautiously using a contact cover method, and when they got up towards the vehicle, it looked like the subject had passed out inside of the vehicle. Officer French kept a cover on the subject with his firearm, and Officer Delavecchio moved up cautiously to extract the subject out of the car. He was able to pull the subject out of the car, put him on the ground, and handcuff him. The weapon was still inside of the vehicle at this point. Once the subject was in custody, Officer French holstered his weapon. They called for medical units to respond because the subject now seemed to be having trouble breathing. Medical units arrived and cleared the subject, and he was transported to Sentara Lee Hospital for evaluation. The weapon was recovered. It ended up being an unloaded weapon, but the officers wouldn't have known that at the time that this occurred. The subject was a 6-time convicted felon for violent offenses. He had 2 previous convictions for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and he was wanted on an outstanding warrant at the time of this incident. This could have gone an entirely different direction, but these officers used sound judgment, exercised proper tactics, and were able to resolve this matter peaceably. A lot of times, officers are awarded ribbons for being in a gunfight. It's very rare that police departments historically have awarded ribbons for not getting in a gunfight, for using the appropriate level of force, for using their training, their tactics, to resolve a situation without having to fire a weapon. No officer wants to come to work and shoot somebody. They don't want to do that. So today, we'd like to honor Officer Delavecchio and Officer French, and I'll ask the 2 lieutenants to come up, Lieutenant Karpowski and Lieutenant D'Amico,